Can you feel your muscles working? Should you be able to feel your muscles working? Should you be able to say, I want this muscle in this specific location to fire, and without actually moving the muscle, moving the body, can you get it to fire? This is a question that I get all the time. People come in and they say, I'm doing my bench press, I'm doing my squats, I'm doing my deadlifts, but I can't feel the right side glute, quadricep, infraspinatus as much as my left side. Is this a problem? The answer is kind of double-sided. Yes, it is a problem, but no, it's not, because your muscle is not activating. Unless you have a significant neurologic sign or a stroke, let's say, your muscles are activating. They're turning on, they're turning off. That's just the end of the story. The problem is, though, that we often don't, if you want to say, feel the muscle working, because the connection between the muscle and the brain is not as strong as it should. So when we activate a muscle, we don't get that feedback loop from the muscle to our brain to say, hey, this is on. So that kind of throws people for a loop, because it's hard to think about your muscle not communicating with your brain. The question then is, what do we do to fix it? Should we say, focus on this muscle, fire and contract, and always try to tighten it in hopes that someday you'll feel it? I say no. I don't think that we should do specific exercises that focus directly on one muscle and just try to use feedback and feeling it as our end goal. Because what happens is, when we try to activate, we don't get that feedback and we automatically think that it's a failure. Instead, let's look at another skill and try to draw correlations from that. So I just had a client come in who owns a liquor company, and beginning liquor company, obviously you're going to do everything yourself. So he has to put on the labels on the bottle all himself. The correlation with him that we drew is, when you're putting on the labels on your body, when you were putting the labels on your bottles in the very beginning, everything was crooked, everything was hard to do, and you couldn't get those labels on correctly. You had to visually look at it, make sure everything was lined up, and then wrap the label around. As he got better at that, what he said was that he doesn't even have to look anymore. He just gets the feedback from his hands, throws the label on the bottle, and he can feel how it's on correctly. So now what he's doing is he's doing that task pretty much autonomously. So let's draw that correlation back from that to your body. The first thing that you do isn't feel. If you try to feel the muscle working, it's not going to work correctly. So what we have to do is use external cues instead of internal cues. External cues. How does it look? How am I moving? Use those as your goals in the beginning, because if you're doing an exercise and you're trying to feel a muscle, it's not working, it's going to be frustrating. Just do the exercise right first. The muscle's firing. If you're in the right position, you're going to get the muscle firing. As you do that, what you're going to notice is that, yeah, I'm in the right position. Oh, this is what the muscle's supposed to feel like. Oh, this is where it is. This is how I get to use it to contract correctly to make sure I get that feedback. And then as we progress from there, once you get better at it, once that feedback gets better, you're going to now say, now that I'm doing with this exercise, I want to confirm that I'm doing it right because I feel this muscle working, or I'm able to feel this when I'm going through these specific movements. So at first, we just use those external cues. Does it look correct? Then we kind of blend the external and internal cues, what our body's telling us, into saying, I'm doing this correct, it looks correct, and I can feel it correctly. And then what we do is, at the end, is we're able to say, I want this muscle to fire. I don't have to move my body. I don't have to do a specific exercise. If I'm standing in line at the grocery store, I'm able to contract, I'm able to think about that muscle, and I'm able to get it fire at almost at a cramp. So instead of saying, I want my muscle to fire 100% well whenever I want it, that's like saying, I want my 2-year-old to go from a glider bike all the way to a motorcycle in the next day. There's steps you have to take in between. Let's get those external cues first. Let's get in the exercise. Let's get the movements down. Then as you get better at those movements, as you get more proficient with them, then you're going to start feeling the muscles contracting better. Then you're going to start feeling where the muscle is and what point of motion. And then at the end, you're going to be able to contract the muscle without even moving, without thinking, I have to get in this position, fire the muscle. That's the ultimate goal, because what we want to do is we want to get that foundation before we start trying to build strength. We want to make sure that all the muscles are doing their job so that one muscle doesn't do too much, one muscle doesn't do too little. I get that that's the end goal. Let's start at the basics first. So as a recap, Yes, you should be able to feel the muscle contracting. You should be able to nearly isolate each muscle. To start off, you're going to use external cues. Does this look right? Is this movement correct? Then you're going to blend those two. External, does it look right? Versus internal, yeah, I'm starting to feel it a little bit. And then at the end, you should be able to do all internal. I'm standing, distracted, I feel where the muscle is, I can activate it, I can get it to almost cramp. So make sure you go through all those three to get to that end stage.